See, we're almost live. We are live. Good morning, everybody. Happy Earth Day.
Good morning.
Will, did you know it was the 50th anniversary of Earth Day today?
I think Maggie reminded me that in the morning, but it wasn't on my calendar. I'll admit that.
Gotcha. Well, I'm just going to get a lemon quick, and we'll wait for some other folks to arrive.
That means 1970 was the first Earth Day, huh?
1970. Gotcha. We've got one person joining us. You need a little help. Do you need it with your game? If you want to bring it over here, I can look at it quickly while I'm waiting for people to show up. So I'm excited to make Pea Dip today. I think it's going to be a nice sort of fresh spring feeling lunch or snack.
Me too. We're a few weeks away from having fresh peas at farms and everything, but this will be good practice for when there are fresh peas, and probably right around early June.
So we've got a couple people tuned in. I'm going to give that back to you. And we're just waiting for a few others to join us, and then we'll get started. So I've got some frozen peas here. And Will, when did you plant peas in your farm?
I planted peas 2 weeks ago. So early April. I had scheduled to plant peas at the end of April. You plant peas 4 to 6 weeks before the last frost, but it's been such a warm spring that I saw farmers planting peas, and I decided to do it. And they just germinated about this week. So at soil temperatures, at wherever they're at, it took about 2 weeks for them to germinate.
Gotcha. And if it is too cold, will they just kind of sit in the soil for a little bit and then germinate? Yeah.
So the risks that you run, and kind of the game that I'm playing right now, is that if they sit in the soil and the soil is too moist, they'll get a fungus and they'll rot, and they won't germinate. So right now, like, it's supposed to rain the next few days, and mine have germinated. But if they sit in soggy soil for too long, you could run into trouble. So it's sunny now, and it's supposed to be sunny this weekend. I'm hoping that I hit that nice balance of dry weather and rainy weather.
Gotcha. So I planted mine. So did you like go in and see, like, pull up a seed and see if it germinated?
I do, yeah. And plenty have been uncovered by the downpours that we've had, especially early last week. So, but yeah, I check every couple of days.
Gotcha. Well, it does seem like maybe spring is around the corner, although we have Aunt Liz checking in from upstate New York, and it is cold and snowy there, which is unfortunate for them. Not so much in Florida. We had anybody here in Florida. And there's a note here. Hold on one second, Maxwell. And it says, so this is my grandmother. She said she tried to get them in by St. Patrick's Day. And I've always heard that you plant peas right around St. Patrick's Day.
I've always heard that too. And I think that the weather doesn't always cooperate with that saying. But this is one of the years where I saw farmers being like, for the first time, I got peas in by St. Patrick's Day. Like, hopefully we'll have peas in April kind of thing. But it has been a cold April. We used to do, when I worked in Martha's Vineyard at with school gardens, all the schools would do a first peas to the table competition in all the school gardens, which was started by Thomas Jefferson under his presidency. And it was a way to promote gardening early on in spring. And it was a nationwide competition to see who could get the first cup of peas, or maybe not nationwide. It might have been more in like Thomas Jefferson's community there. And we would always have peas by the end of the school year, like mid-June. But it really was like, it was a fun activity to do.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty neat. So what we'll do to get started is get our peas defrosted. So there's a couple of options here. You can cook them on the stovetop with about a cup of water and boil them. And then when they're nice and bright green, take them out and blanch them. So that's one option. I'm going to go with an easier option, which is to just run them under some warm water until they're defrosted, because we don't need to cook these necessarily. So I'm going to put them into my colander here, and I'm going to run my peas. I have 2 cups of peas, and I'm just going to run them under some warm water. And then I wanted to talk a little bit more about sort of farming in the Northeast and sort of what's happening right now on farm. So let me get these going.
I'm going to get mine going as well.
Okay. So while those are defrosting just a bit, I posted this morning about why we're using frozen peas, and part of it is it's just what we have in the freezer. But the other thing is that, I think sometimes it's easy to, to think like, oh, it's springtime, there must be lots on the farm. But April and May are actually probably the most difficult months for farmers, because anything that they harvested in the fall that they had for storage, like pumpkins or squash, potatoes, beets, are usually pretty much gone by now. Like March, everything is sort of sold off. I think at Stone Acres Farm, I saw some pumpkins still there, some of the Casperita pumpkins, those little white ones. But I think that was all that they had from storage left. Does that sound right? Did you see anything else there?
Yeah. Even I don't even know if I saw those white pumpkins at this point.
And so after storage crops go, at Stone Acres Farm we have high tunnels, which are basically like greenhouses, and they provide enough protection for cold weather crops to make it through the winter. So things like kale, and I think there was the what did they just harvest that had the blooms on it? Was it the
tatsoi, the Asian green?
Oh yeah, the tatsoi, and some mustard greens and salad greens. So those were growing through the winter, and they're cold hardy crops, so they can withstand really cold temperatures. They just need a little protection from like hail and sleet and snow, so that their leaves don't freeze. And so those grow all winter, which is kind of amazing. And you have these like fresh greens, and people aren't really expecting to have anything from a farm, so anything you have is really wonderful. And in fact, a lot of those cold weather crops, like spinach, for example, and also beets and carrots and parsnips, to make it through the cold temperatures so that they don't freeze, they actually convert their starches to sugars. And so winter spinach and winter carrots, winter beets, winter parsnips are all really, really sweet and have a much sweeter flavor than, let's say, a spring carrot or a spring spinach.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that it actually makes a lot of sense with the plant's life cycle and its response to daylight hours. So as winter approaches and the winter solstice approaches, it's feeling less daylight. And so it starts to create a root, and it starts to create sugars in order to survive the winter. But once things start to warm up and we start shifting towards longer days in the summer solstice, it's thinking time to make a seed, so that I can start the next generation, of my family. So timing your planting with the winter and summer solstice is a really old practice, but it's a way to eat according to the plant's life cycle.
Right. And all those sugars are like, it's not unlike us where we need sugars for energy. They're storing that so that they have enough energy in the spring to put up a shoot and to start growing their plants. So it's all like this big energy storage to keep them going. Are you going to eat all my bread before it's time to actually? Here, I saved this little nub of bread so that we could serve our pea dip on it, but I think it's going to be gone. Here you go. Can you bring that to Cole also? All right, so we're going to get started on making our pea dip. So the story is, to finish that up, in the wintertime, those greens are growing. And then what our farmer does, at least, is right about now starts to clear out those greenhouses to get the tomatoes and the cucumbers in. And the greenhouses, or the hoop houses, or the high tunnels, are really good for tomatoes and cucumbers because it extends the season. It adds a little bit of warmth so that the tomatoes can start growing a little bit earlier than if you had planted them outside. And through the summer and into early fall, it extends the season just a little bit longer. So it keeps the environment slightly warmer, which is the temperature that the tomatoes and the cucumbers and the peppers like. And it keeps the growing season a little bit longer. So right now, the greenhouses are being cleared of all the winter greens. All of the tomatoes, all the little seedlings for the tomatoes and the cucumbers are going in. And it'll be a little while before they produce any fruit. And so the greenhouses become kind of, nothing's coming out of them for a while. And then on the fields, it's all just these, you can just see the tiny plants starting to sprout and the sort of hope of what's to come. But there's not a lot of things coming off the field as well. So April and May are really quiet times in the Northeast for farmers.
Yeah, absolutely. And with everyone sort of clamoring to get local food right now because of concerns with our food system, like that enthusiasm is amazing. but it's just so lean right now. So the pressure on farmers to get things out is really high. So we just got to be a little bit patient.
Yeah. So we go to our frozen foods, all the things that we can use up now before all the produce comes off the farm. So I think my peas are just about defrosted. So grab those. Okay. So I have my nice green peas, and I have about 2 cups of peas here. And it's a really, really simple dip. It's not unlike a pesto. So if you don't have peas, you absolutely could use spinach or kale and do basically the same recipe. The peas it's just a really nice sort of like bright flavor. And I'm going to use a blender, but you can also use you can use a fork and mash it with a fork if you don't have a blender or food processor. You can use a mortar and pestle. It's just going to be a chunkier dip, and that's absolutely fine. But I think I'll use my blender since I have it here, or I should say my this is sort of a food processor. Okay. So I've got my peas in there. Oh, give me 1 second, Will. Are you going to get your peas going?
Yeah, my peas are right here. I'm going to start adding them to I'm going with the mortar and pestle.
Okay, great.
My blender's down.
Okay. So I think some of you heard that we got a puppy, and she found her bark today. So today's the first day we've heard her barking.
She's excited for spring too.
So my daughter's going to take her out. Just adding some more chaos to the house.
Just what you need.
Just what we need. Okay, so I'm going to add about a half a clove of garlic to my dip, which, again, if you don't like garlic, skip the garlic. And so it's like really your recipe, and it's the same thing if you're making a pesto. You can add a lot of garlic if you like a really garlicky pesto, or not a lot. You can also add to this dip, if you wanted to, you could add pine nuts or walnuts or even some chopped almonds, which would be a really nice addition to even your pea dip. So when you make a pesto, it's usually basil or any other green, spinach, carrot tops work for a pesto, garlic, and it's, for let's say 2 cups of greens, you might put half a clove of garlic, and then you might add a little bit of olive oil and some salt. And then if you want to add a pine nut, that's sort of the traditional nut that you would add to a pesto. But like I said, you could absolutely add walnuts or almonds or sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds work really well to add just a little bit more sort of like earthiness and thickness to it. I'm going to add a little bit of lemon zest because I have a lemon. And so I'm just going to zest a little bit of lemon into my peas here. And again, when you're zesting lemon, you just want to go really light on the zest, because if you get down to the white part, you get to the pith, which is very bitter, and it just doesn't add a very good flavor. So I'm going to add a little bit of lemon.
I'm adding Parmesan cheese, so I'm going to start grating my Parmesan cheese now.
Excellent. And then, so then you can add cheese. So to the rest of the pesto, let's say you're doing a spinach or basil pesto. You've got your garlic, you've got your olive oil, your salt, and then your nut if you want to add it, and then typically some Parmesan cheese. So it's similar. This is basically like a pea pesto in a way. You can add Parmesan cheese if you want to. I also happen to have a little bit of ricotta cheese, which is what I think I'm going to use just to lighten mine up a little bit. So I just have to grab a spoon and my olive oil.
I'll also say that peas make a great hummus. So if you were to replace chickpeas with peas in a hummus recipe, that's really delicious too.
Absolutely. Yeah, you could add some tahini to this, which is just sesame paste. So it's really, it's that along that sort of same line as a pesto in a way.
Right, it has like a legume in it to go with the green.
That's exactly right. So tahini is just sesame seeds, and I'm kind of winging it with the olive oil. Again, it's sort of like how thick you want it to be. Or
right,
how
I think of it as just a way to like loosen it up enough so that it has a nice smooth consistency.
Exactly. I'm wondering if I should add a little bit of Parmesan also. I think I might, just for some fun.
And I'll do some lemon juice. Got a lemon right here.
Oh, that'll brighten it up. That'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
And then sort of a sprinkle of salt here. And Will, we can't really see your table. I don't know if you want to
yeah, I can
lower your camera a little bit.
kind of show you my setup here.
Oh,
actually, it looks really pretty.
It looks really pretty.
With some oil and cheese, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and start mashing it here with my mortar and pestle.
Okay, and I'm going to get mine going with the blender.
This recipe reminds me of when I was in Ireland, and like a popular side dish with pub food was mushy peas.
Okay.
And I was always excited because I love peas, and they remind me of my childhood. My mom would always sneak frozen peas into Annie's macaroni and cheese.
Okay.
I have like nostalgia for that. But at all the pubs in Ireland, they were like, "Would you like the mushy peas?" And I was like, "Yes, sign me up for the mushy peas."
I love it. I love it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do mine, so it's going to be a little noisy for a moment. So I will add that if you like to have a little bit of the peas in your dip and you don't want it to be completely smooth, you can also hold off some, like a quarter of a cup to the side. And when you finish blending your peas, you can just stir some in at the end.
That's a cool idea to kind of mix up the textures.
Yeah, you just have that sort of nice, fresh, whole pea flavor.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to taste mine before I blend any further and just make sure it tastes the way I want it to taste, and also to make sure the consistency is where you want it to be, because you want it to be, as thick, or sometimes you might want it to be a little softer. You could add a little bit of water or some stock as well. So mine's feeling a little bit thick.
Mine has come out to be, it's super bright. It's a little bit chunky, but I'm excited to try it.
Mine is delicious. I'm going to add a little bit more lemon. I'm going to add a little bit more salt. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil.
Yeah, I really like mine.
And I'm kind of going to go a little bit more on everything. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of water to thin mine out just a little bit. So let me grab some water.
If I told my fiance that I was mashing frozen peas for lunch, I don't think she'd be too excited, but this is really delicious.
Yeah, and it's really nice on a piece of toast or bread that you've got a piece of like a baguette. If you have, as you get sort of further into the summer, if you add like some radishes to the top of it, a little salt, that would be delicious. You could also add a little prosciutto to the top of it. Would be really good as a little appetizer. So Amy and Olivia asked if we added lemon juice. I added lemon zest, and I think Will, you said you added lemon juice, right?
I did add some lemon juice to brighten it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just added the zest. I'm going to save my lemon for later, and I'm just going to go ahead and blend mine a little bit more. You could also add this to a little bit of pasta with some butter, and just do like a buttered pasta with a little bit of a pea pesto with it. Mm-hmm. Let's see how mine's looking. Mine got nice and smooth here. And I'm going to just take a little bit of a taste. Well, the lemon, that last little hint of lemon was perfect. I'm going to do just a little sprinkle more of salt. And I'm going to add a little bit more Parmesan cheese. So you can see we are just kind of making it up as we go along.
And tasting as you go along too, and just adjusting for how you like.
So important. And I always like to taste, especially with the salt, to make sure it's not too salty. I'm going to go a little bit more. Okay. And I'm going to take a little bit of the bread. I do, as it turns out, have a little bit left. This would also be nice with the ricotta cheese on it, like a little bit of ricotta, a little bit of the pea pesto, and then top it off a little prosciutto, which I don't have, but
sounds delicious.
One day I'll make it again. And this is a really nice appetizer to make. Sort of looks and tastes like spring before we fully get there. So here's my, whoops, there we go. My pesto. And let's take a little taste. That's so good.
It really is. It's amazing what you can make with
it's so surprisingly refreshing, and it feels really fresh and really like a lovely spring snack.
Yeah, I keep saying, like, being forced to just use what you have on hand. I'm like amazed at what I've been discovering, and I've been enjoying that shift in how I eat.
And it's so easy. It's just the peas. If you just have peas and salt, you can make a pea and salt dip. If you have garlic, you add garlic. If you have lemon, add a little lemon zest or lemon juice. And you can add some cheese, like a parmesan or a ricotta, which I had a little bit left over from a dish we made the other night. So it's wonderful.
Absolutely. And it's not too late to plant peas if this gets you excited to go out and plant peas in your garden. There's so many different kinds of peas you can plant. You can get sugar snap peas, which have the edible pods, or snow peas, which also have edible pods but are really thin. And then there's shelling peas, which the pod is very fibrous, but it's so fun to grow shelling peas and to crack them open as a family and snack on the big, delicious, fresh peas inside. And those shelling peas would work great for a dip like this.
Yeah, awesome. So happy Earth Day. Enjoy your green dip for Earth Day. And thank you all for watching.
Thanks for watching. Bye, Will.
Bye, Will.